Welcome to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie. No Defo, just Lubie. One more day. I promise. Tomorrow, Defo will be back in all his splendor. Returning, I hope, valiantly and successfully from Atlantic City. Today, you have me and David Furones covers the Miami Dolphins for the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. Was a very busy weekend for the South Florida sports scene. The Canes are in the Sweet 16 in the men's NCAA tournament. So I think finally you'll get some people in South Florida caring about NCAA tournament. Yay, we love Coach Larnay. We've had him on twice on our show over the last 3 weeks, and we featured him here, I think, both times. So hopefully you enjoy those conversations. The Miami Heat are still number one in the Eastern Conference, and still no one's talking about them, which is so fun nationally and locally. You have the Miami Marlins finally make a big move, bringing in World Series MVP Jorge Soler from NL West division rival Atlanta Braves. The Florida Panthers, still number one in the Eastern Conference in the NHL, and top three, I think actually number two in all of the NHL in points, are not sitting on their laurels, are aggressive. Go and get Claude Giroux, the former captain of the Philadelphia Flyers, one of the best players in all of hockey. Get a defenseman in Ben Chariot from the Montreal Canadiens. Get someone from Buffalo. Really are being aggressive as a team that's been good all year, trying to not only win their first series in the playoffs since the late 90s, trying to actually win the Stanley Cup for the first time in franchise history. So it was a very busy, great weekend. The one thing I come out this Monday concerned with is what the heck are the Miami Dolphins doing? They did not sign Lyle Collins. Lyle Collins was supposed to leave Cincinnati, did not. The Bengals signed the franchise right tackle to help protect Joe Burrow. Well, Terron Armstead has been the prize of free agency. He has been the best offensive lineman of this free agent class. And we talked with David Furones about if he's coming to Miami and if the Miami Dolphins have a legit shot at signing what hopefully will be a franchise tackle for the Miami Dolphins. David Furones from the South Florida Sun-Sentinel talks Miami Dolphins with me right now here on the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. No Defo, he's in Atlantic City, but you do have me, and right now you do have this man, the one and only David Furones, joining us from the Sun-Sentinel, covers the Miami Dolphins. But we'll start here. You are a proud Cane. You used to cover Canes football. You've talked to us about Canes basketball. You are a Cane. You're a South Florida kid made good. How does it feel, Canes being in the Sweet 16, Mr. Cane?
Yeah, it always feels great to get to the Sweet 16. As you also know, as a Knoll that has watched the Florida State Seminoles do that in recent years under Leonard Hamilton. But yeah, it had been since 2016, and now, I mean, actually 3 of the 4 times total that the Miami Hurricanes basketball program has made it to the Sweet 16 has been under Jim Larnay in this past decade. So that's a testament to what he's done, and especially this one where he's had to come back from a couple of down years. They were involved in that FBI college basketball investigation a few years back, and then nothing came back from that. But the program really suffered through that with scholarships down and some top recruits that were considering going to Miami that held off because of it. And now we've seen Jim Larnay, even last year, there were all those transfers that were out. Everyone was worried about it. He got a few guys to come in, and a strong group put together, and one that just pulled off a nice upset of Auburn here. So on to the Sweet 16 for the Canes.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit exciting down here in South Florida sports. David, again, from South Florida, grad, covered the Miami Hurricanes football program, so I know you're a little bit around the basketball program as well. Cool to see, and we have Coach Larnay on all the time, so cool to see Coach L and the Canes get to the Sweet 16 in dominant fashion. I mean, they struggled late against USC, which was weird, as they had that game in the bag. But Auburn was never in question, dominated the number 2 seeded Auburn, and Bruce Pearl had to be quiet, which is rare. But your beat now is the Miami Dolphins, who have been active and have been smart. But over the last week, people got a little frustrated because the most important position is tackle, and the 2 names you've heard a lot, Armstead and Collins. Collins now a Cincinnati Bengal. Armstead supposedly in town. Before we get to anything deeper, what have you heard about Terron Armstead as he supposedly is in town? I think now. He was yesterday. They kept saying tomorrow. So what have you heard about Terron Armstead visiting the Dolphins?
Correct. Yeah, I can confirm that I heard he is in town. He traveled last night and will be visiting. I don't have a timeline on anything, but yeah, is visiting with the Dolphins today. So he'll be at Dolphins headquarters today, checking out the Miami Dolphins. And I guess they must have been in preliminary talks close enough if this is the one visit that has gotten out on Terron Armstead's itinerary here. So obviously he's had a long tenure with the Saints, so he wouldn't need a visit or anything with the New Orleans organization if he ends up going back there when they do have the cap space after they cleared it all for Deshaun Watson, who eventually went to the Browns. But and maybe the Dolphins would still need to make some moves to clear space. There's contract restructures they could do. If they land a tackle like Terron Armstead, then with cuts on the roster being a possibility, Jesse Davis would be one candidate. As I know a lot of fans obviously were frustrated with his play at right tackle, to say the least, right? So it would be a huge get if they end up either agreeing to a deal or he ends up leaving with a great impression in his head to ultimately decide to join the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, a huge position of need, maybe the most glaring position of need or the most glaring need at tackle that any NFL team has. A lot of people talk about the Bengals. They did address it with Lyle Collins, but the Dolphins were probably even a step below the Bengals in tackle play last year specifically.
So, okay, a lot of, and those of you, not everyone here lives on the world of Twitter. David, as he's referenced to me, knows my Noldom because of Twitter. I'm a lunatic Noel fan on Twitter. David's not such a lunatic Kane fan. And the world of Twitter has had a lot of fun with the Dolphins the last week because murmurs were Lyle Collins was coming. Some murmurs were they're going to get both Armstead and Collins. And then Collins was leaving Cincinnati. So see, he's coming. And then the Bengals smartly said, no, here's more money. Damn it, we need you. So Collins doesn't come here. A lot of the reports are if Armstead's here, it's to close a deal. What is your thought on how far you said they may have been in preliminary talks last year because no one's really known what Armstead's doing. So the fact that for the first time people know where he is says something. What have you heard in that regard, like of where the negotiations could be? Because a lot of people are feeling this is just formality, and I've been around the Dolphins enough to know nothing's a formality when it comes to them.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't go that far. And we've seen in the past how many times things like that could break down. So, but it is certainly a positive development. So, I mean, he's here. You know, he decided to come out here, and the Dolphins are the one team that we know for sure has gotten that visit from him. So, as far as how close it could be, that will develop today. So we'll find out. Either we'll get some really good news, or we'll be left kind of waiting on something to happen. But it looks good so far.
This is the Defo Show on ION Channel, talking with David Furones, covers the Miami Dolphins for the Sun-Sentinel. Follow him up on Twitter at David Furones _. So again, good or bad news, don't blame him. Just follow him, and he will guide you to whatever the heck the Miami Dolphins are doing. Okay, talking about Dolphins moves, it's funny, up until last week, I was actually sort of excited about their moves because in the past, they've either really gone big for Brandon Albert, found a way to get a Mike Wallace, gotten a Brandon Marshall, and it just didn't work, Ndamukong Suh, or done nothing, just gotten rid of everyone good and rebuild. It never really felt like the Dolphins found this middle ground where they had a coach with a plan. They go and get players that around the league are respected that fit that plan. As a guy that covers his team, up until last week, what have been Connor Williams, top 12 guard out of Dallas, Cedric Wilson Jr., a guy who was just bogged down on a really deep Cowboy receiver chart, but people would like around the league. 2 running backs, and Edmonds and Mostert, that again, yards per carry. When they're out there getting touches, they do work in a very similar, or in Mike McDaniel's offense. What up to this point have been your thoughts about the Dolphins free agency period?
Yeah, they're nice moves. It's been a lot of you haven't had the big splash yet, of course, which that could come in Terron Armstead. But when you look at, you needed to add some receivers. Cedric Wilson Jr., a guy who, like you mentioned, he was a lot of times the 4th receiver on that Dallas Cowboys roster. And then I know a lot of Cowboys fans who really liked him, and they wanted to see the team keep him after, obviously, Amari Cooper was traded away. So he stood to move up the depth chart there. Now he'll have a greater opportunity in Miami. Like his athleticism, his 6'2" build and long arms, and also it could be interesting how Mike McDaniel might be able to find creative ways to use him with his ability to take a reverse and maybe even throw it. He was a high school quarterback, and I've seen him make some throws on an NFL field that looked really, it looked really impressive. On the move, I mean, throwing darts 30-plus yards down the field. And then the running backs, not names that are going to wow you per se, especially in this era of fantasy football. A lot of guys think of running backs as the feature backs that gain the most yardage, but and get the most touches. But this is what Mike McDaniel likes to run, is be able to split carries between 2, maybe even 3 guys. And so he gets a couple of guys that could complement each other. Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert. Mostert obviously has experience with McDaniel in the 49ers run game. We saw that year that they went to the Super Bowl, what he was able to do, and had that 4-touchdown, 200-plus yard game against the Packers in the NFC Championship to get to the Super Bowl that they eventually lost to the Chiefs in Miami. So a guy that has worked in the system, the outside zone run scheme, he can do it. And you pair that with, you already were saying, Miles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed and Jared Dokes, who they'll get an opportunity to compete as well. But a group of guys that you like how they can get the run game going there. Now you just need that offensive line. You got Connor Williams there, so you got a guard. And then now if Terron Armstead, if you address the tackle position with the most prized free agent tackle, then that would be a huge get.
We're talking again with David Furones. Follow him up on Twitter at David Furones _ Coming up in about 10 minutes, we will have the one and only Tony Segreto kicking it old school. Thank you to Texas Roadhouse and Catholic Health Services. Alrighty, so you brought up his name, Mike McDaniel. I brought up his name. I don't know how much we've gotten to talk to you about it. The feeling around the guy is, it feels like he's, if not 180-degree turn from Flores. He's a very big departure. Flores very close to the vest. Flores didn't crack jokes. He wasn't all out there in the media. He wasn't like this media favorite. He did his job. He did a good job. He couldn't figure out the offense. McDaniel's the whole opposite. Like, the dude is doing nighttime television, and every local media outlet has a meme with him. And literally on his flight in, he's doing video calls with Tua, calling him dude and bro. Like, McDaniel is just like the opposite. He is firmly entrenched in millennial, but anyone who knows football has the highest of praise for the guy. I'm sure you've been around him a lot more than us. What is your impression of McDaniel? And it feels like a very clear difference in the way Tua's been handled from Brian Flores to Mike McDaniel, even already.
Sure, yeah, and probably you could extend that to a lot of players, not just the way Tua will be handled, but of course, a lot of the attention will go toward that. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a 180 in personality, which is why I was interested in asking Chris Grier when he had that sit down with a lot of us. Were there particular characteristics that the team was looking for? Where kind of what I was getting at with that question was, did you want to completely reverse course in the personality of the coach? And they said that they didn't necessarily look at it that way, but it just so happened to sort of work out that way, where Mike McDaniel has that opposite personality. But the good thing is he does have this balance where, like you mentioned, he's highly respected among football minds. So it's not like, sure, he's this different personality, but then everyone looks at him and says, all right, well, this guy, he doesn't know his football. No one listens to him. I mean, and he even told myself and my partner at the Sun-Sentinel, Omar Kelly, in our one-on-one, I guess in this case, 2-on-1 conversation that we had with him, that he learned pretty early on that he could address football players, men in the locker room, even the way he looks, the way he acts. Very young, a couple of years, actually it would be his second season out of college, graduating at Yale, where he took his first paid job with the Houston Texans, Gary Kubiak over there. His first job, of course, was with the Broncos as an intern in that 2005 season.
Ridiculous.
But he was, right, yeah. So he was working with Andre Johnson, as I mentioned earlier, University of Miami, great, and in the prime of his career at that point in time. And he has to go and earn his respect as a 23-year-old, I guess he would have been at the time. Kid out of Yale that's, scrawny, what is this guy supposed to teach Andre Johnson, right? but he went and I guess he sort of showed Andre Johnson that, hey, I am here to help you. I am going to do whatever it takes to get you better. I'm going to find every way that we can maximize your talent and earn the respect of him early on in his career. And then it just kept going from every job that he got from then on out. So there's been a lot of football players that he's had to deal with. Now it's just a challenge of leading a group of 53, even more so when you're in training camp, and more players, but just leading a whole locker room as a whole, and some of the challenges that may come from that, a lot of the different egos, personalities in that locker room. And also I think he's going to lean on the staff that he put together. He put together a nice staff here, some young guys, and then a mixture also of older veteran coaches that have been around. And I think instances where maybe it's not in his true personality to go and get tough on a guy, that he might be leaning on some of his assistant coaches to do that as well. So it's a nice combination that I think he'll have.
Well, and that was a big thing for a lot of people, was the staff he put together. A lot of people had questions because he would crack the one-liners and he would recite rap songs. And so the young audience loved him, but the older group was like, oh, this guy, this whatever. And then he put together like an impressive staff. Like he went and got a bunch of veteran guys, whether it's college or the pros, that know a thing or two, which a lot of the time was Flores' issue. Like offensively, Flores' hires left a lot to be desired, let alone he would fire those guys within a year. There wasn't a lot of continuity there, where it feels like McDaniel was sort of not it felt like Flores was tinkering with offensive staff, and I felt like McDaniel had a plan, and that's sort of the entire thing I've got from all of this is people feel like there's a plan, and then he's putting in players to fit that plan. We're talking with David Furones here, the Defo Show. Last couple of things. Follow him up on Twitter at David Furones _. Okay, before we let you go, what else do you see on the horizon for the Dolphins in free agency? I presume we'll have you before the draft, but free agency-wise, there's also been some murmurs, maybe some more in the receiving core they'll work on. I know they've been looking at linebackers, some defensive end help. Anything else you're looking for them to do free agency-wise in this next month or so?
Yeah, well, I think that first and foremost, you got to get past Armstead. So if the Armstead thing develops and that's the big splash, then I think let's say if we go on the flow chart of don't get Armstead, now you still got to address tackle. So you go to what else around there? Trent Brown's one option, I would say. Big 380-pound right tackle. Yeah, I said that at 380 pounds. We've seen him with the Patriots. So you could take him from within the division. And that would be filling the right tackle spot. So a lot of the tackle market, aside from we saw Lyle Collins went ahead and made his move. I think Morgan Moses we saw make his move earlier in free agency and not get held up. But a lot of that tackle market has been held down by first Terron Armstead's got to go and sort of set the market as who will be the highest paid tackle this cycle. So Eric Fisher is another guy out of the Colts. First you get that done, and then I think after that, that'll be the one big move we'll see, because I think from then on, a lot of the guys the Dolphins wanted, the spots they wanted to touch on, they hit, and then you'll just see smaller depth moves probably from then on. You see the continuity on defense that I think this team was really going for, and keeping Emmanuel Ogbah, and then the linebackers. I was thinking it might have happened earlier, but the linebacker market has also kind of stuck around where we haven't even seen Bobby Wagner get going anywhere. So is it possible? Maybe they use some cap space if, let's say, they don't land a big splash at tackle like a Terron Armstead. But we did see them re-sign all those linebackers from last year. So a lot of continuity on that side of the ball. And then I think you'll go into the draft next month, a little bit more than a month, and you'll be in a position where you can mostly pick best player available, but you're still looking to add at some of those same positions where, now you add a receiver, but you might want another where that'll be a position to be down the road. And, Devontae Parker, how long are you going to stick with him? And you can get another guy in the draft to pair with Jalen Waddle and now Cedric Wilson Jr. and so on. Also, Lynn Bowden is pretty much going to be an addition to the receiving core because he missed all of last year, and we saw he was pretty strong at the end of the previous season, the 2020 campaign. So that'll be exciting as well. And then obviously they're going to keep going for linemen in the draft and I do like the possibility of some of these Boston College linemen that Matt Applebaum, the new offensive line coach with the Dolphins, had. Because they have 4 guys that could get drafted, 3 that are pretty much certainly going to get drafted, and the 4th as well, Ben Petrula, and a couple of guys, the interior linemen, Zion Johnson and Alec Lindstrom, they could go in some of the earlier rounds. So it'll be interesting to see if that connection ends up landing Dolphins one of his former linemen in college.
I mean, this guy knows nothing about the Dolphins. What are you talking about? Exactly. That's why we love David Furones, because he knows everything about the Miami Dolphins. If you want to know what's going on with the Miami Dolphins, he's the guy you need to follow at David Furones _. Also, he'll touch on the Canes as well, and he's a lot more sane about the Canes than I am about my Knowles. So you want to follow him when it comes to South Florida sports. Does a great job with the Sun-Sentinel, and always very fair and cordial and generous with his time with us. So, David, thank you for joining us this morning, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon, my friend.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, be well. That was Mr. David Furones. Thank you to David Furones from the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. Follow him, hit him up again on Twitter at David Furones _. Used to cover the Miami Hurricanes football team, is a King graduate, so really excited about the Canes hitting the Sweet 16 for the 4th time in school history, 3rd time under Jim Larinaga. Down here, I'm a Noel fan, but good for the Canes. I mean, my FSU basketball team has had a lot of success the last 6 years. Canes had a lot of injuries the last couple of years, so nice to see a healthy group pushing and getting by USC and dominating Auburn. That was really cool to see. And it is pretty cool to see the Miami Dolphins being aggressive. It would have been nice to get both Collins and Armstead because you need tackles. I mean, Hunt did a good job. You bring in Williams. If you can get those 2 guys and then in the draft get a center, they go from having one of the worst offensive lines in football to maybe having one of the better offensive lines. They don't get Collins. He goes to Cincinnati. But you did draft Eichenberg as a high second-round pick last year, and he showed some flashes. So to just write him off, I don't know. Look, Austin Jackson's had 2 years. I don't have a problem writing him off. He was a bad pick, and he's had 2 years, and he's a bust. Eichenberg was a second-round pick that people did like, and he was a little bit of a reach, but not a massive reach like Jackson was. And he actually had some signs of life last year. He wasn't graded well, but he was a rookie player on a bad line. If you can add Terron Armstead, who again, David Furones said, can't confirm he's down here. Reports are, if he comes down here, it's because he's close to a deal. The Dolphins know they have a lot of money and they need to fix this line. You can bring back Hunt, who actually did a really good job as a rookie. You can bring back Eichenberg. You have Williams, who's one of the best guards in all of the league. You have Armstead, who's one of the best tackles in all of the league. And now you can use your first-round pick on a center, which this draft actually has some depth of really talented centers, which we've seen centers come into the league and succeed pretty right away. You have a guy from Boston College, offensive line coach, who did a really good job there. You've now helped to remake that offensive line that's been abysmal for years. The Dolphins, that seem to be falling behind a lot of the franchises down here, seem to be making a move. We will see if it becomes official, Terron Armstead. But as of now, Dave Furones reports he can confirm that Terron Armstead is down here, and that means good things. Hopefully the Dolphins don't let him leave without a contract being signed. We're letting you leave, but we'll be back tomorrow. Check us out in the morning. Ion Channel. Just Google The Defo Show, DEFO, at 7 a.m. Defo will be back. You can check today the Believe Network, Believe.com, search After Hours for exclusive content there. And right here, 5 Reasons Sports Network, The Defo Show with Lubie. Thank you to David Furones for joining me. Thank you for you to listening to us. Check us out tomorrow. The Defo Show with Lubie right here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10. And Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. thank goodness for landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.